to the watch list, and you want to highlight the game's most damaging players ahead of finals.
Yeah, I think the game's now been played on the outside a little bit, and as soon as you can get the ball to the outside to those damaging guys, they've got to put the icing on the cake. So we just want to go through the season so far and see how there's been a bit of a shift, and there's clubs are in a bit of turmoil because some of these names have dropped off. So if you look at the start of the season to round 9, we're all talking about Heaney, Kelly, Dacos, Bolton, and Langford's in there, which is really interesting, but his damage was extremely high. Round 10 to 15, it's shifted a little, still had a heavy Swans presence. Heaney wasn't far outside of that top bracket there, but you got Warner and Goulden in there. Houston at halfback's always close to the mark with this sort of thing. And then you look at the last 6 weeks, which I think is really interesting. There's a new king in town. Hayden Young is the most damaging player in the game right now. And it's easy to see when you watch the game of footy. He's got a deadly left leg. He runs around untagged, which is amazing. But look at those other names here. Like Toby Green has come back from nowhere, really. He was 216th for ball use at the start of the season. Then he went to 114 in that middle block. And you can see there he's up to the second for the last 6 weeks, which is great. Paddy Cripps has had an unbelievable season. And he's doing as much with ball winning as he is ball using. Butters has come with an absolute rush, but he's always around that sort of mid-20s to 30s area. And Dan Houston is the constant amongst this group. So I just want to show why he's so effective and what he does and what it does for Fremantle. If you look at the Fremantle numbers there, this is why I think they're a constant threat to the opposition. That their ability to get bang for buck when the ball goes inside forward 50, Jack. I know they've got great targets down there, but I think it's the way that the quality of supply, the way they bring the ball in, that sets them apart from the competition. And when you're talking specifically about Hayden Young, which is what we're here to do, this is why he's so good, because his entries inside 50, from that launch pad of 50 to 70, which is what we're talking about, 50% of his kicked entries become a goal. The AFL average is about 15%. So that is a ridiculous number. And when you see it, you can't stop watching it. So I'm looking at this guy, and he's got coaches' votes in 4 of the last 5 games. He's not a high possession guy. He has, in the 7 games we're talking about, or the 6 games we're talking about, he hasn't even had 30 disposals in any of those games. In 2 of the 7, he's had more than 24. So he doesn't need a lot of touches to kill you. And I just think that it's time we start talking about this guy and give him his flowers, because his vision is different, his kicking is elite. No one's going near him. That's the thing that really is really staggering me. So these sorts of play here, Jack, and I'll get your comments in a sec. Just have a look at how quickly he assesses where the drop zones are, where it needs to go. I guarantee you Geelong are not snoozing on this guy.
How much is it positional, Kingy? Because there was the game against Melbourne where they did a real number on Melbourne, and he played forward because he was sick. Are we seeing more time of him playing that sort of hybrid mid-forward role that's allowing him to have this damage?
Nah, I think he's been in a lot of centre bounces. He's a prime mid now. I mean, you choose whether you want to tag Sarong. Look at this.
So who do you tag?
Well, you've got to tag this guy. He's the number 1 in the comp. So he gets the handball out of the traffic, it comes back to him. And this kick here is a kick for a guy who's absolutely seeing it. So I love what he's doing. And I think it's time for the competition to wake up and say, hey, no more Sarong, no more Brayshaw. This is the man you have to tag.
Tracy and Amos would love his work, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah.
What about Port Adelaide, Joey? They're building, and you think a big reason why is because of Ollie Wine's form?
Well, I just thought we should need to give Port Adelaide some credit for what they've been able to do, because there was that patch through the 3 weeks there, particularly that round 15 game against the Brisbane Lions where they got embarrassed in the midfield.
Kenny got booed.
Kenny got booed, and it was a horrible performance. But since then, they've won 5 of their last 6 games, and they're in the box seat to finish top 4 for the 4th time in 5 years. And a big part of that has been their clearance game. It has always been their strength in previous years. They've been a lead at winning clearance and being able to score from it. But up to around 15, you could see there, it was only mid-table, it was only average for the competition. But since that game against the Brisbane Lions, the midfield have gone to work, and they are now back to being elite in the clearance game. But the big factor in it, the big player that you just mentioned, Kath, has been Ollie Wines. It hasn't been because of Horne-Francis, necessarily Rosie and Butters. It's been what this guy's done, getting back to some of his very best form, because in the last 6 weeks, he was the 5th player for Port Adelaide to play in the centre bounces. So he was behind Drew, Horne-Francis, Rosie, Butters. Since then, he's now in their 17th 73% of the time, which is the most of any of the mids. So he's getting more time in there, which has led to him being 6th in the competition for effective clearances. But more importantly, number 1 in the competition for those clearances leading to a score. So he's now doing the grunt work that I think it's just got a better balance in their midfield when he's the one that's just winning that hard ball, just ripping it out, getting it from the inside, and then allowing Horne-Francis and Rosie and Butters, what they do really well, to get to the outside and use the footy. I mean, his form's been sensational. Like, he's averaging the 26 disposals, 6 clearances and 7 score involvements in this 6-week period. He's polled coaches' votes in 4 of the last 6 games. And I think Jackie's going to be crucial in the finals. This big body that they can go up against Cripps and Tom Green and Fife and Bontempelli and Heaney that can allow the other boys to flourish in their roles.
Is there an element of Ken was sort of trying to look to the future? You can see Jason Horne-Francis getting involved there, thinking, I've got to go and play my number 1 pick in the most important position in the midfield, and then all of a sudden realising that one of his old stars, his old Bull's still got a bit of life in it.
Yeah, and he's found his form. Like, he wasn't playing the best, but since he's got back in there, it just shows how good he is. But then, Kingy, and this is to your point, you've been on about this for a while, about Horne-Francis playing more forward.
Yep.
So it's allowed that to happen. So his time forwards increased from about 30% up into over 42%. Disposing forward half's gone from 50% in the first 15 rounds of the year to 74%. He's getting all his ball now in the forward half, which is leading to higher numbers in regards to the ones that matter: score involvement, score assist and goal. So I think they've got a better balanced looking midfield now. They've made some adjustments with the forward line with Radigalea. So I think it sets up for them now the opportunity with Melbourne and Adelaide to come in the next 2 games to finish top 4, and then we'll wait and see how they go in finals.